Welcome to this executive briefing. Today, we are deconstructing a significant shift in Indian foreign policy. We are looking at New Delhi's calculated non-response to the seismic escalation that occurred in Tehran in February 2026. This analysis, based on the work of Suhasini Haidar, explores why one of the world's most vocal emerging powers has suddenly opted for strategic silence. To understand the silence, we must first understand the gravity of the events. On February 28, 2026, a targeted strike assassinated Iran's supreme leader Khamenei, along with his top advisors and several family members. This was followed by joint U.S.-Israeli missile attacks that devastated civilian infrastructure, including a girls' school in Minab, where 150 people were killed. By March 1st, even medical facilities like Gandhi Hospital in northern Tehran were damaged. These are actions that the WHO and UN have flagged as deeply concerning violations of international norms. Despite the scale of this crisis, India's response has been remarkably muted. While there was an assassination of a sovereign leader and mass civilian casualties, New Delhi offered zero official condolence messages and zero condemnation of the strikes. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar did speak with his Iranian counterpart, Syed Abbas Araghchi, on February 28, but the official readouts completely omitted any mention of the assassination. Instead, India utilized generic language, expressing only deeply concerned or grave anxiety regarding general regional escalation. As one former ambassador warned, if countries do not oppose the trend of killing sovereign leaders, they may find themselves on the menu next. This silence is not just a choice, it is a total break from historical precedent. In January 2020, when Qasem Soleimani was killed, India officially stated the killing alarmed the world. In May 2024, following President Raisi's death, India ordered a national day of mourning and sent the vice president to the funeral. As recently as June 2025, PM Modi called the Iranian president within hours of strikes on nuclear facilities to offer support. Today, that solidarity has vanished, replaced by absolute silence. So, what explains this sudden absence of comment? Experts point to 5 key pillars of a new strategic calculus: a pivot towards Israel, waning economic ties with Iran, historical friction with the late supreme leader, pragmatism regarding the Gulf, and a need to appease the United States. The most visible shift is the definitive alignment with Jerusalem. Following the February strikes, PM Modi spoke with PM Netanyahu and GCC leaders, but conspicuously omitted any contact with his Iranian counterpart. In a historic Knesset address, Modi stated that India stands with Israel firmly with full conviction. This represents a structural replacement of India's historical reliance on Iranian non-alignment with a fresh consolidation of diplomatic capital in Israel. The strategic math is fueled by a collapse in economic ties. In 2018, bilateral trade stood at $17 billion. By 2025, it plummeted to just $1.68 billion, a 90% decrease. Even the flagship Chabahar port project is stalling. As U.S. sanctions waivers expire in April 2026, Indian personnel are pulling out. Furthermore, the nearby Konark airport was recently targeted by Israeli missiles, further cooling investment appetites. There is also a personal and political dimension. While Iran shielded India on the Kashmir issue in the 1990s, the relationship soured under the late supreme leader Khamenei. In 2017, 2019, and 2020, Khamenei reputedly criticized Indian domestic policy, even referring to the Delhi riots as a massacre of Muslims. These interventions into Indian internal affairs eroded the foundational goodwill that might have otherwise prompted a sympathetic response to his death. Then there is the sheer scale of the Indian diaspora. There are only 4,000 Indians in Iran, compared to 20,000 in Israel and a staggering 10 million in the Gulf. With surging energy reliance on the Gulf and a new defense partnership with the UAE cemented in January 2026, New Delhi cannot risk alienating the GCC, nations that have themselves been targets of Iranian-backed infrastructure attacks. Finally, we must look at the Washington architecture. In February 2026, India secured vital trade agreements and integration into U.S. critical technology supply chains, a partnership known as Pax Silica. Navigating a mercurial U.S. administration that is currently threatening extreme sanctions on any Iran engagement makes maintaining distance from Tehran a matter of geopolitical security. However, this tightrope walk is not over. If the U.S. moves towards boots on the ground in Iran, the energy and trade disruptions will hit India hard. Furthermore, there is a risk of a global South leadership deficit. By aligning so closely with the U.S.-led coalition, India may erode its hard-won standing as an independent, non-aligned voice for developing nations. The ultimate stress test comes later this year when New Delhi hosts the BRICS summit. BRICS now includes both Iran and the UAE, nations that are currently active rivals in this conflict. India will be forced to move beyond silence and physically host and mediate between these warring factions on its own soil. The takeaway is clear. Silence is a tactic, not a long-term strategy. Soon, India must reconcile its Gulf, U.S., and Israel alignments on the world stage.